Kevin, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
So you are our host today. Excited to begin this new day, new edition. Tell us more about the edition.
Yeah, very excited. I have to say very moved as well, because this is the first time. You were mentioning art before. It's the first time that we have a living art performance at ChangeNOW. And, you know, art touches people, it changes people, and people change the world. And I think for us it's important to have this mix, this diversity of profiles that you will see at ChangeNOW when you spend some time here. Here we are in the serious part of the summit. You know, there's a lot of people that are investment professionals, corporates, but you will find at ChangeNOW as well, you know, a diversity of profiles from people coming from Amazonia, some activists, some singers, some athletes. There's Tony Parker coming later this afternoon. There's citizens, kids as well. We have a program for kids that is starting from 8 years old onwards. And I think that's really what makes this place a moment that is quite unique in the year, is that to reach the goals that we're facing, that we have, we need to make a cultural shift, and it takes the left brains, but also the right brains to do so. So that's why we like to mix very serious topics with also artistic forms and means to touch as well people with the hearts, because that's how we're going to make it.
Okay, so on this sustainable finance morning, why did you create this Fund for Change sub-event? What did you try to achieve? Why is it important to have a full morning dedicated to sustainable finance?
Yeah, so that's an intuition that came out of a first experience 3 years ago. When we launched ChangeNOW in 2017. First edition was at Station F. We had 2 editions there. The inspiration came from the COP21. We felt that it was amazing to see these objectives from the States, but to reach our goals, we needed to embark all the private world and the citizens as well. And that was the idea behind ChangeNOW, create that moment when we all gather to collaborate and accelerate change around concrete solutions. So we've been very focused on entrepreneurs at the beginning and helping entrepreneurs scale. So we put them on stage, and then we brought a lot of stakeholders with levels of influence, of knowledge, of capital. So investors was a very important part of the equation from day one. And we had a format called the pitch garden, where entrepreneurs were pitching all day long in front of investors. And then one day, for the 3rd edition at the Grand Palais in 2020, we said, why don't we let investors pitch as well? You know, it shouldn't be only the entrepreneurs. So we made a reverse session where investors were pitching in front of entrepreneurs, and that was very successful. And then thinking about it, you know, to reach our goals, we need more funding. We need more capital. Capital is an essential part of the equation. Right now, in 2022, there's $1.1 trillion invested in impact investing around the world, globally. We need 3 more trillions to reach our goals on climate. So there is this really necessity to bring more and more investors on, you know, in the topic of sustainability, and to help us also, you know, create more inclusive societies. So for that, we need to help investors raise more capital. And so that was the idea behind Funds for Change, which is a moment in the year where we are going to help with the mainstreamization of impact investing, putting on stage the most innovative impact funds in the world, and bringing around them investors that are, you know, professionals, you know, that do invest in the topic, or not yet, and are eager to know more. And ChangeNOW usually is a place where they're going to learn and see that the range of topics is really wide. It's a very exciting space to be in, and there's food for everyone. So that's the idea behind this moment.
Yes, at INDEFI we observe a kind of really sophistication of this ecosystem, with very brilliant new ideas coming in. From your, you know, position of, you can observe all this innovation in the ecosystem. So what type, the new trends or the new you know, topics that you see emerge and that you want to put to light on this stage?
Yeah, so you mentioned it. So we're going to have 12 funds pitching this morning. we had 70 plus applications from the 5 continents, so we it was way more international than the previous years, and outside Europe as well. A lot of people from the US, from the South America, Asia, Africa. So it was very international, and the thesis of impact were very different from one region. The topics, obviously climate is the main focus, but we saw a lot of things around biodiversity as well. A lot of new funds getting funding and starting to, with this idea of tackling the biodiversity loss issue, which is, with climate, it's I think the second planetary boundary where we need to put a lot of focus and energy and capital on. We saw a lot of things as well around gender. In a very interesting funds from the Middle East and the US as well. And then, again, so the question and what you put behind impact is really personal, and it really depends on the region and the topics you want to tackle. But I would say so far what we're seeing is that there is more and more capital on climate, that's for sure. But capital, so climate is usually is the entry point. Like if you take like LPs, like pension funds in Europe and in the rest of the world, usually they will allocate not more than 5% of their assets on climate. And that's great, that's the first step. And then usually what we see is that after the first phase of investment on climate funds, then there's this question of, what's the next topic I also want to put my money on. And that's when there is this question, of what is the intention of the LP. We need to talk more of on the intentionality behind the investment. And we're seeing more and more funds specialize on one area. So food, regenerative agriculture, biodiversity, as I said, inclusion, gender, and so on. And that's really interesting because, the LPs can really start, linking their intentions with specific funds that are specialized on a certain topic. And then what I see, that is emerging at the moment, which is really interesting to me, it's also the question of how do we drive systemic change. And I see that the future of impact investing, it's systems change investing. And we're seeing now that there's some small portion of the funds are starting to be allocated towards solving systemic problems. So, education, or, trying to think how can I change the system and solve a problem at the root cause. For example, Marie Eklund from 2050, she allocates 10% of her fundings to topics that are really systemic. Yeah. And I think that's the future where we're gonna head in the years to come. Is impact investing is here to blossom, it's gonna grow, and there's gonna be more and more capital, and that's great. But if we want to reach our goal, we need to accelerate, and for that we need to address the topics, the problems at the root cause. So we need to change the system in itself, and for that we need capital as well. And
about changing the system, and sometimes an obstacle that is mentioned for the growth of the impact fund or the sustainability fund landscape is performance. This discussion, is it performing well, good enough, market return, etc. I know you have a specific view on that. We'd like to mention why is it an obstacle, and if not, why?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of impact investing, there is this. The reason why impact investing was not attracting too many investors at the beginning, it was this idea that you had to make a compromise between ROI and impact. And then now, in the latest years, we've seen that you could actually excellent market level returns in impact if you invest in climate mature technologies, and that's true, and that's usually the entry point. You get a lot more investors interested in the topic because they know that the returns are going to be market level, which is great. But I think, as I mentioned before, if we want to address if we really want to shift the system and change it and make it in a way that the system fits the planetary boundaries, we also need to tackle problems that don't have I would say a short-term ROI. So for that, we need to use blended finance tools, and we need to work with stakeholders that are going to de-risk. So obviously, public development banks are usually the entry points that then work with the help of philanthropic stakeholders, foundations, that are laying the grounds for local private investors who would be then able to invest in the topics. But I think at some point we're going to need to question to ask ourselves what is a fair ROI?
Yeah.
And
is chasing unicorn?
The 20 plus, 30 plus, percent annual return a fair ROI when it comes to sustainability and when it comes to solving the problems of the century? I'm not sure certain problems need to be addressed, and they're not going to deliver those returns. And we need to find investors that are, that understand that, and that are okay with this idea of allocating a certain portion of their portfolio to problems that are not going to deliver the same returns, but we need to solve those issues, so we need to invest in that as well. So it's really this idea of having a multi-asset kind of a way of approaching the problem. Climate is really important and it's urgent, and we need to invest in the technologies, but we also need to tackle biodiversity loss. We need ecosystem restoration, education, social issues, and we need to find courageous investors to do that as well.
Okay, so chasing unicorns is not the only way to invest in sustainable finance, right?
You said it, but...
Okay, we'll discover new ways. Thank you, Kevin. I know that you have a lot to attend to.
Thank you for being here. And have a great session this morning.